let's now turn back to NATO, already off to a charged start with President Trump squaring off with U.S. allies, including Germany. Joining us now with more is Atlantic Council Senior Fellow Ariel Cohen. Thank you so much for joining us. What's the risk for U.S. foreign policy if the NATO summit ends up like the G7?
This is completely unacceptable if we destroy the most successful military alliance, political military alliance of the last 74 years. Of the last 74 years. And on top of that, we destroy our relationship with our greatest trade partner, the European Union. We have a national interest, our egotistical national interest, to have NATO continuing to project power, to defend all of us together, and treating NATO as a rent-a-cop is just plain wrong.
So Ariel, explain exactly that national interest, because NATO was created actually in the shadow of the then Soviet Union, and it was really its reason for existence. That has gone away now. There is no Soviet Union. So how do you explain to people, perhaps like President Trump but others in the United States, who say, you know what, we took care of that problem. Why do we have to spend all this money on NATO?
Well, if President Trump is calling for 4% spending for NATO countries when most of them do not meet the 2% requirement agreed in 2014 at the Wales Summit, the question is, why should we even spend that kind of money? And the answer is, number one, Russia broke the rules in 2014, invaded Ukraine, annexed the Crimea, and the West needs to be ready and demonstrate to Russia, signal to Russia that we are ready to defend ourselves and to defend NATO allies, including in Eastern Central Europe, such as the Baltic states, Poland, etc. Number two, NATO is involved in Afghanistan. NATO members projected power there. The first time NATO invoked the self-defense clause was to protect the United States after 9/11. So yes, it is a net producer and provider of security, and we need to understand that the NATO members do not pay enough. I agree with President Trump. Germany should pay more and other countries should pay more, but don't break the successful endeavor which NATO is.
On that point, President Trump just tweeting a couple of minutes ago, what good is NATO if Germany is paying Russia billions of dollars for gas and energy? Why are there only 5 out of 29 countries that have met their commitment? The U.S. is paying for Europe's protection, then loses billions on trade, must pay 2% of GDP immediately, not by 2025. But Ariel, President Trump talking about Germany paying billions of dollars to Russia for gas. Is the dependency of Europe towards Russia too much? And does it justify the president's stance on this issue?
Well, let's take a quick look. Europe is not uniform in its dependence on Russian gas. Central and Eastern European countries depend for 60, 70, maybe 90% on Russian gas. Germany is currently dependent by 30%, and it may go as high as 70% if the new pipeline called Nord Stream 2 is constructed. And President Trump, in my opinion, correctly, is opposing that pipeline. On the other hand, it's a matter of form, not of substance. How you talk to the Germans. If the Germans feel like President Trump is trampling on their independence, of course they'll circle the wagons. If the Chinese told us not to buy oil and gas from Mexico.
Ariel, terrific, but we got to go. Thanks very much to Atlantic Council Senior Fellow Ariel Cohen.
And of course, we'll bring you complete coverage of all things NATO. President Trump there meeting world leaders. This is Bloomberg.